Hello everybody, this is Barbershop Books story time, and today we have a really cool book. It's about an artist. The book is called Radiant Child, and this is the story of a young artist named Jean-Michel Basquiat. Do you see it? Well, if you like to draw, paint, color, any of that, you're gonna absolutely love today's story because it's about an artist. Somewhere in Brooklyn, between hearts that thump, double dutch, and hopscotch, and salty mouths that slurp sweet ice, a little boy dreams of being an artist. And look, you can see him getting shaved ice on the sidewalk. In New York City, sometimes during the summer, there'll be a guy who will have a cart with ice on it, and he'll shave it. Shh, shh, shh. And then he'll put the shaved ice into a cone, and then put syrup, sweet fruity syrup all over it, and it tastes delicious. Well, that's exactly what's happening with the young artist in our story. In his house, you can tell a serious artist dwells, as he sits at a table with pencils scattered everywhere. Jean-Michel draws from morning until night with a serious face amid a storm of papers. He refuses to sleep until he's created a masterpiece. Look, today we're reading a story about a famous artist. His name is Jean-Michel Basquiat. Do you see it? He said that he would not sleep until he had finished his masterpiece. Have you ever worked on a piece of art, a drawing, painting? Maybe you were just using crayons, but you just couldn't stop until you finished your art. Well, that's exactly how the artist in our story was. At night, images enchant Jean-Michel's mind, and he wakes from his dreams to add one more line. So no matter what he does, he's thinking about art. His drawings are not neat or clean, nor does he color inside the lines. They are sloppy, ugly, and sometimes weird, but somehow still beautiful. Did you know that there's different types of art? Art doesn't always have to look the same. And today, we're reading Radiant Child. It's a story about a famous artist named Jean-Michel Basquiat. And we're going to learn about his life. His art comes from his mother, a Puerto Rican woman who designs and sews, cooks and cleans, and makes the house look like a stylish magazine. But most important, she lies on the floor and draws with Jean-Michel on his father's old work papers. So his mother draws with him. She participates in his art. Do you see her on the floor? How cool is that? That his mom even helps with his art. From her, he learns that art is not only in the poetry books she reads, to him, or in the theaters and the museums they visit. Art is in the street games of the little children, in our style and the words that we speak. It is how the messy patchwork of the city creates new meaning for ordinary things. So, as Jean-Michel Basquiat is thinking about art, he doesn't see art as just being in museums. He sees art as being everywhere. It's all around us. It's in the games that he plays outside with his friends. He saw it in the streets. Look at these cool pictures. Do you see that milk truck? I see it. It's right here. While visiting the museum, they look at his favorite works of art. I wonder what kind of art an artist likes to look at. Reading the story behind each artist, reading the story behind each work. This is how Jean-Michel learns what it means to be a famous artist. So the artist that we're reading about today, as he visited museums, he read every detail. So in museums that have art, they have little stories about the artist, and they have little stories about the art. And you can read it next to whatever type of art, even if it's a sculpture, or if it's a painting, or if it's a drawing. And so this artist, he would read every detail. You know what? That artwork reminds me of an artist named Picasso. Let's see what else happens. Back at home, he creates art on the floor as his father, Gerald, plays jazz records. Mama Matilde cooks arroz con pollo. Arroz con pollo, that's chicken and rice. And calls Jean-Michel mi amor. That means my love in Spanish. The energy and life of the city can be felt in each line of his drawings. So what we're learning about today is about an artist. This is the name of the book. It's called Radiant Child. And we're learning about Jean-Michel Basquiat. For him, his art comes from the inspirations that he gets from just looking around. Man, what inspires you when you do art? Like maybe when you paint or when you draw? Is there something that really gets you excited and makes you want to make art? As time goes by, Jean-Michel learns that art has a healing power. That means art can make you feel good. After a car accident, he is scarred and confused. Matilde gives him a book to calm his fears. It is filled with pictures of bones, skulls, and other body parts. Jean-Michel draws from it until he knows it by heart. He is no longer afraid. So his mom gives him a book to read to help him, and it inspires him with his art. You can be inspired to do art from anything. It could be something that happened to you, like a story, a visit to your someone's house. It could be a trip to the park. It could be something that you see that you think is so cool that you just want to draw it. Back at home, Jean-Michel's body heals, but his heart breaks. His mother's mind is not well, and the family breaks. She no longer lies on the floor and draws with Jean-Michel, but sits by the window singing only to birds. Jean-Michel is confused and filled with terrible blues when Matilde can no longer live at home. And look, he's looking, and it looks like maybe there's someone who's escorting his mom. That means they're taking her somewhere else so she can get better. This story is about an artist. Today we're learning about an artist and all the things that made up who he is as an artist. the things that happened in his life, the things that he saw all around him in New York City that made him want to draw and paint. He tries drawing the terrible out of his blues, but things are not the same. So sometimes, for some artists, things can happen that can maybe make them not want to draw. But let's find out if Jean-Michel can find his inspiration. As Jean-Michel grows older, he visits his mother when he can, always bringing his artwork to show, telling her that one day it will be in a museum when I am a famous artist. And look, you can see him with all of his art, and he's showing it to his mom. Can you see it? All of the artwork scattered all over the floor. What do you do with your artwork? Do you spread all your papers out all over the floor? Do you put your paintings or your drawings on the wall? A teenager now, Jean-Michel decides, Papa, I will be very, very famous one day. With a sly look and a twinkle in his eye, Jean-Michel leaves Brooklyn for New York City, the Lower East Side, a concrete jungle where only the tough survive. And look, you can see him. He even has art under his arms. So the artist in today's story, he moved from Brooklyn, which is in New York City, to another part of New York City called the Lower East Side. And do you think he brought his art with him? Absolutely. Jean-Michel Basquiat brings his art with him everywhere he goes. During the day, dressed in a green jumpsuit, splattered with paint, Jean-Michel stays with friends, sleeping on couches and floors, leaving a barrage of collages and poem-filled papers everywhere he goes. So everywhere that Jean-Michel Basquiat goes, he leaves behind a trail of papers, a trail of art, his drawings, his paintings, and the poems that he wrote on them. At night, Jean-Michel spray paints the walls downtown with poems and drawings that catch the eye of artists, gallery goers, and passers-by. So those are just people kind of just walking by. It seems like he had to get his art out anyway and everywhere that he could. Under his art, he signs the name Samu instead of Jean-Michel. Everybody wants to know, who is Samu? Who is Samu? Well, we know because we're reading the story. But imagine walking through your city or your town and seeing art spray painted on the walls or art other places. And someone puts their name, but no one knows who it is. That's called a mystery. And that's exactly what Jean-Michel Basquiat did. He would write his name, but not his real name. He would write another name, and no one knew who was creating all of this art. So, Samu moves from street corners to art gallery walls with powerful color composition and line, collaging and painting on anything he can find. His art is still not neat or clean, and definitely not inside the lines, but somehow still beautiful. So guess what? Even when you draw or you color, you can kind of do art in many different ways. Some artists stay in the lines and make their art really neat, and other artists are kind of messy. And guess what? we can find something beautiful in all types of art. With his magical charm, Jean-Michel draws a crowd. But when it's time to work, he prefers to be alone with the radio and TV on full blast. So he likes to make art with music, loud music, or the TV playing. Now, in expensive suits splattered with paint, he flips through stacks of magazines and open books and paints into the night, and sometimes for days at a time. Can you imagine painting and painting and painting and not even stopping to like eat or to sleep? Well, that's how much Jean-Michel Basquiat was driven by his art, is that sometimes he would just paint for days and days. Wow. And while he was painting for days at a time, he would do this while the sounds and images jumped into his head. Jean-Michel, an artist among artists, never doubts one line, creating from a soundtrack that is all his own. So he didn't wait for people to tell him like, oh, that's the way you should do it, or I like it like this. He just poured out whatever art came out of him. People described him as radiant, wild, a genius child. But in his heart, he is a king. So he draws crowns for himself, and for others, he admires. And look. Wow. Do you see the crown in this painting? So for him, crowns represented something special. And so he drew them on himself, and he drew them on other people that he really liked. Who would you draw a crown on if you drew a picture? Would you draw a crown on yourself? Maybe you would draw a picture of somebody in your life who's really important to you. Like, who would I draw? I think I would draw a picture of my mom because she's really important to me. She was a teacher for a long, long time, and she inspired me to be a teacher. So I think I would draw a picture of my mom, and I would draw a beautiful golden crown right above her, just like in the picture that I see in the book. A grown man now, with the art world in his hands, Jean-Michel still visits his mother when he can. And at his most important shows, above all the critics, those are the people who come and they maybe will tell you what they think about your art. That's what critics are. So, above all the critics, fans, and artists he admires, the place of honor is his mother's, a queen on a throne. So out of all the people who would come and look at his art and talk about his art, you know whose opinion, whose ideas mattered the most to him? It was his mom. He is now a famous artist. Who do you think we're talking about? We're talking about Jean-Michel Basquiat. Wow. And guess what? That is the end of the story. Today, I read Radiant Child. It's the story of a famous artist named Jean-Michel Basquiat. For all of you artists out there, I hope that you draw something cool today, or you paint something cool, and that you share it with someone that you know. And even if you can't physically show them your artwork, I hope that maybe you can do it through a video call or something. because I'm sure the important people in your life would love to see your art. You know what? I think I'm going to go draw. Well, this is Barbershop Book Story Time with me, Alvin Irby. Until next time, bye-bye.